There are corners of our world where the veil is thin, and the rules of reality seem to fray at the edges. Across the globe, certain locations become magnets for the inexplicable. Their coordinates are fixed on our maps, but their true identity is carved from the unsettling accounts of those who have witnessed the impossible. In the very heart of Scotland lies one such zone, a stretch of land where the ordinary sky gives way to extraordinary phenomena. This region, known to many as the Falkirk Triangle, holds the formidable reputation of being Britain's most concentrated zone of unexplained aerial activity. But what transforms a simple patch of Earth into a gateway for the unknown? Accounts of mysterious objects navigating our atmosphere are woven deep into the fabric of human history. Ancient artifacts and medieval texts bear silent testimony to sights in the heavens that defied contemporary understanding. Yet the modern concept of visitors from other worlds truly ignited in the public consciousness during the late 1940s. A wave of sightings swept across North America, but one event in particular would define the era. On a clear June day in 1947, a pilot named Kenneth Arnold was flying his small plane near Mount Rainier when he spotted a formation of 9 peculiar vessels. They moved at a speed he couldn't comprehend, and their motion was unlike any known aircraft. When describing their movement to journalists, he famously said they flew like a saucer skimming across water. The term flying saucer was born in that moment, and it would forever shape how we talk about the unseen. This single report opened the floodgates. Governments took notice. The United States military initiated formal studies, and soon after, British authorities launched their own investigations into the growing mystery. What were they so concerned about? Early data suggested most sightings occurred near urban centers. However, analysts soon identified 2 rural exceptions that reported more activity than any major city. One was near Warminster in England. The other was a vast area in central Scotland, anchored by the town of Falkirk but centered on the smaller community of Bonnybridge. Since the 1970s, this Scottish triangle has experienced repeated surges of strange events. But a series of high-profile encounters in the early 1990s would thrust it into the national spotlight and cement its legendary status. The first of these pivotal events occurred one summer night in 1989. Firefighters were called to a house fire near Shield Hill. After extinguishing the blaze, their attention was drawn to Loch Lyrig. Hovering just above the water was a solitary crimson light. Their initial assumption of a police helicopter quickly dissolved. The object was utterly silent, created no downdraft, and hung in perfect, unnatural stillness. Without a sound, it suddenly shot directly over their heads at incredible speed, causing several seasoned men to duck instinctively. And it was not alone. Minutes later, a second light, this one blazing white, appeared over the loch. It mimicked the first, hovering, observing, then racing past the stunned crew. As they scrambled to leave, a third light performed the same silent, aggressive flyover. Official inquiries that night revealed no helicopters, no military exercises, nothing in the airspace. The incident became a curious tale among local crews, but its significance would only become clear years later when other witnesses began describing eerily similar silent streaking lights. What did the fire crews truly see? In January of 1992, a local man named James Walker was driving home on a deserted country road near Bonnybridge. In the sky ahead, he saw a cluster of red and white lights dancing and shifting in a playful, chaotic pattern. He slowed his car to watch. Then the lights abruptly snapped into 2 precise parallel rows. The formation began moving steadily down the road directly toward him. As it drew nearer, the individual lights resolved into a terrifying whole. They were mounted on the underside of a colossal, silent, triangular craft. Its V-shaped hull passed directly over his stationary vehicle without a whisper of sound or a rush of wind. Then, in an instant, it accelerated and vanished into the darkness. Just weeks later, another encounter unfolded nearby. A woman named Isabella Sloggett was walking home with her 2 children at dusk. Her son pointed out a pale blue light descending from the sky. As it drew closer, they saw it was a spherical object surrounded by a ring of brilliant blue lights. It passed overhead, losing altitude until it disappeared behind a cluster of trees. Driven by a child's curiosity, they ventured closer. They found the object resting in a clearing. A section of its hull slid open, spilling an intense blue light onto the ground. Then, a guttural, terrifying howl erupted from within. Overwhelmed by primal fear, the family turned and ran, never looking back. When Isabella reported the event to the police, they were sympathetic but baffled. This, however, was only a prelude. The following August, two men, Gary Wood and Colin Wright, were driving on the A70 road from Edinburgh. On a dark, empty stretch, a single, intensely bright light appeared in the distance. It grew rapidly, bearing down on them until a blinding flash filled the car with heat and light. When they regained their senses, they were disoriented. Their car was now facing the opposite direction, and their dashboard clock revealed 2 full hours had vanished. What happened in the missing time? There was no evidence of a crash. Deeply shaken, they reported the incident, but the official response was one of confusion. In the following weeks, both men began suffering from fragmented, horrifying flashbacks. Seeking answers, they independently underwent hypnosis. Their separate accounts were chillingly consistent. They recalled being levitated from the car and taken aboard a dark vessel. Inside, they described being examined by shadowy figures on cold tables, experiencing searing pain. Communication was telepathic. The beings claimed to be long-term observers of humanity, not travelers from a distant star. They were not visitors from afar, but watchers already here. The men were eventually returned to their car, their memories wiped. As a final effort to be believed, both passed polygraph tests, their physiological responses confirming they believed their accounts to be true. But the triangle was not finished. Years before the 1990s wave, another legendary case had already shocked Scotland. On a November morning in 1979, a forestry worker named Robert Taylor was inspecting a wooded area called Deckmont Law. In a clearing, he encountered a massive, metallic, spherical object hovering just above the ground. As he approached, 2 smaller, spiked spheres dropped from it and rolled toward him. They slammed into his legs, tearing his clothes and cutting his skin. He felt himself being dragged forcefully across the ground toward the larger craft, before a powerful, acrid smell overwhelmed him and he lost consciousness. He awoke minutes later, alone. The objects were gone. His trousers were shredded and his legs were bleeding. Stumbling back to his vehicle, he was too disoriented to drive and eventually collapsed, making it to a hospital on foot. Police investigated and found a series of strange, deep indentations in the clearing's soil. The case was officially recorded as an assault by persons unknown, but the evidence pointed to something far stranger. Skeptics proposed theories: a stroke, a lightning strike, a panic-induced hallucination. But Taylor, a former soldier with a solid reputation, never wavered in his story until his death. The physical evidence on his body and the ground remained unexplained. What sets the Falkirk Triangle apart is the nature of its reports. While most UFO sightings are simple observations, a startling number here are close encounters of the third kind, direct interaction with occupants. The skies here are among the busiest in Europe, with major airports and military bases nearby. Skeptics rightly point to planes, satellites, and secret aircraft as likely explanations for many lights. Yet, for every plausible answer, there remains a core of incidents that defy easy classification. The recurring descriptions of silent, triangular craft with red and white lights, the accounts of missing time, and the physical traces continue to surface. So, what is the truth? Some look to history, suggesting ancient sites like the stone circles of Orkney or the cryptic carvings in Roslin Chapel, which seemingly depict DNA and global crops, are evidence of ancient contact, a guiding beacon that still draws someone or something to this land. Some mysteries are not meant to be solved, only witnessed. To this day, the Falkirk Triangle generates dozens of new reports each year. The phenomenon shows no sign of stopping. The mystery endures, waiting for the next witness, the next light in the sky, the next piece of the puzzle. If this journey into the unknown captivated you, please support our channel by giving this video a like and subscribing to Winds of Thought for more explorations of the unexplained.